Don't be afraid of hearing rejection. Don't be afraid of facing rejection. Don't be afraid when you feel lonely. Don't be afraid when you feel scared. Don't let that stop you. The countries that I grew up in when I was very, very young, they were always countries which were, you could say that had a lot of people who were, living below the poverty line as we do here. And so it's something I've always been exposed to because my mom has done charity work. So I've always been exposed to that life. We didn't grow up in a life of privilege. We didn't grow up in a life of luxury. We had a very frugal and very, very, very basic childhood. So that's the life I come from. Whether just because it wasn't, just because my gaon was, I didn't grow up here, it doesn't mean that I've not seen it. That's exactly where we come from. I came from starting out, working in the industry, having absolutely no money and needing to work to be successful. And if I was not going to make it successfully, I would have had to, look for another job where I could, secure myself or have security. What I've done in my life in the last quite a few years in the industry, everything that's happened. This last year has been a very, you could say, tumultuous year in a way for me. A lot of changes in my life. And I think whenever there are big changes in your life, you do reflect a little bit on, what you have done in the past, what has brought you to this point, whether it's good or bad. And I think what that does is it kind of starts to force you to look inside and kind of see what are the things that really matter to you and what do you really want at this point in your life. Because it's not as if you're just starting out in your career and, everything is all, stars in your eyes and big, big fancy dreams. Or if I'm speaking for myself, I had a lot of dreams and visions which I was fortunate enough and lucky enough to achieve. But then what do you do? I'm today. I'm 33. You have your whole life ahead of you. What do you now do? You have to create, or you have to envision new dreams and new goals for yourself. And I think that is probably the best way for me to describe to you. I think life has a way of forcing things to happen, and there comes these phases where I think you can try and you can do everything you want, but life is going to take its own course, and you just have to learn in those times to be patient, because you can force and you can scream and you can yell and cry and you can hit your head against the wall, but you kind of know deep in your heart that what's going to happen is going to happen in its own time. This is out of your control. I started quite early in the film industry. I started when I was just before 18. For me, I think till date, the thing I can say that gives me the most happiness and the most pride and the greatest sense of fulfillment is the fact that by the grace of God, I have been able to look after my family. And I have been able to keep my family together.
But how young were you when you had to start doing that?
Well, I think it was never a spoken thing. It was just something which I think it was the way things kind of worked out. We are super tight together. I have 6 sisters and then there's me, so there's 7 girls. I really feel that I'm extremely blessed and extremely